everything that was inside of the transmission. Now you're going to want to go ahead and use some sort of rag, towel, coffee filter, preferably a coffee filter, because these don't leave any particles or anything behind, which you don't really want to leave anything in your transmission case. But use what you can, a toothpick, your nail behind the coffee filter, and wipe out everything in between each one of the grooves in the gear. Wipe down all the bearings, the washers, get all the grease off that you possibly can. And then once we do that, we can go ahead and start putting everything back together. Alright, all these gears have been wiped down, cleaned, as well as the bearings and washers. Now it's time to move on to the diff gear, differential. Go ahead and start by undoing the 4 screws that are located on only one side. Shouldn't be too hard to take out. One thing though is you're going to want to make sure not to strip them. Use the right size screwdriver, and when you do use a screwdriver, make sure that it's clean. Do not use a dirty screwdriver. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to have the transmission free from all particles, debris, dirt, and also you do not want to use any water on the gears themselves. If you do use any water, you're going to want to make sure that that thing is bone dry and then cleaned with WD-40. Now inside the differential gear, people, well, Traxxas in particular says go ahead and use silicone silicone grease. However, not everyone uses silicone grease. A lot of people use tons of different things. For example, some people will use bearing grease, something that you can find at home improvement stores, auto stores, things like that. Other people also use just plain engine oil. Since it's so thin, it allows the gears to spin quicker. I don't really recommend any of those things. However, what I do use is bearing grease. Alright. Once those screws are out, you just simply pull off the top part. This can easily, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead, bring in a new coffee filter. Now all these gears can come out, every one of them. You don't have to be scared of, will I mix them up or mess them up? They're all the same gear size, so you can pull them all out. You'll notice that there is 4 bars in there. These 4 bars hold in 4 gears. And then in between the 4 gears, there is 2 center gears on each side. Just like that. Now, how a differential gear works is that when one tire rotates, it moves through all 4 of the other gears. So basically, in order to move the main differential gear, the teeth on that, both of these have to be spinning at the same time. If only one spins, then the other will not spin. It's confusing, I know it is, but I don't know. You're really going to have to just dig into this and mess around to see it visually. Now that little bar does come out. But anyways, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and wipe out all this grease. Get rid of it. Clean it out just like you did with the others. Okay, I cleaned all those gears. Now, in order to reach behind these bars, you can remove them. Get some needle nose and grab the very, very, very tip of the bar. No more than that. And slightly pull it out. You do not want to scratch up these bars, since there's going to be gears rotating on them at very high speeds. If there's any scratches or rough edges, it's just going to cause a lot of issues. So remember, grab only the very end tip of that bar and pull it out. And the reason why that's okay is that that part will be sticking into the other side, which we'll cover that up with the plastic other side of the diff. Ugh, getting mixed up with my words. Of course, I've been working on Daemon all day, so I guess that's not too big of a surprise. But yeah, now you can reach back there a lot easier and clean out the rest of the grease. But yeah, that's pretty much how the diff looks when it's completely taken apart. It's kind of intimidating at first, I won't lie about that. I was really freaked out to take this gear apart, but when I did it, it wasn't so bad. Now each one of these 4 bars are all the same exact size, so you don't really have to worry about mixing it up. It's nothing really too complicated. So that's what you should have. 4 individual gears, 2 of them that have 2 arms, 4 long bars, and 1 short bar. Now we're going to go ahead and put it all back together. So, reverse process, you're going to put those long bars back in to those little slots that you pulled them out of. Push them down, make sure they're snug. Also, you'll notice that you can see the wear and tear of where the gear was. You'll want to make sure that that's where the gear is going to be set. So since this one has a long end that's not being roughed, it's going to go into the longer side. I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm trying to make sense. Alright, get the last bar in there. Make sure they're all pushed down as far as they can go. Okay, so now we're going to start putting in the gears. If you can see in there, let's see if I can move the light, there we go. 2 of the bars are raised and the other 2 are lowered. And on the other side, I better clean that off real quick. Oops, I forgot something. Alright, there we go. But as you can see, it's reversed. One side has 2 raised and the other side have the other 2 raised. But that's how the gears settle inside there. So, with your first 2 gears, you're going to want to put in the ones that will set in lower. Just like that, which will be diagonally across from each other. Then, you can put the ones that set above that. And already, you're more than halfway done. Now the next gear will be the center one that has arm. Go ahead and slide that in. Now that little bar that I was talking about slides in to that little groove. You can go ahead and just push that back down. And it should slide all the way down. You might have to move it around a little bit. There we go. Now all you're going to do is fill this up about halfway to 3/4 full of grease, whichever grease you choose to fill it up. Reseal it, which is very simple. All you have to do after you put in the grease is put the lid back on, like so. After you put this back, wait a second. There we go. But yeah, you're just going to put that on, screws in after you do the grease. Now it's time to go ahead and put everything back together. So we're going to put the 2 bearings in on each side. It shouldn't be that hard to do. They should slide right into place, just like that. Now you're going to need the right side, which would be the side all the spur and pinion gears will be on. So what you're going to want to do is get this bar, put that in. Your pinion gear, not your pinion, what am I saying? Your differential gear only goes in one way, and that's with the teeth right here. It should match perfectly up with that hole. Just like that. I don't even think it can go in the other way. Alright. So this gear, if you remember, gets a bearing on each side. Get a washer, put it on that metal bar, then you slide that gear on, put on another washer. Now for the last gear. This gear gets the last two washers, one on each side. Just like that. And then that slides in to the hole. And there you go. All done. All you have to do is white lithium grease. Of course, I got a huge amount of it over there at, I think it was Home Depot. But you just put this lightly around the gears. You don't want to smother it and fill up the whole transmission case. You just want to do enough where it covers up the gears fairly well. Perfect. Now, this slides perfectly on top of there. With the case completely back together, you're going to want to get some electrical tape and cover up this hole on the bottom. Just like that. Then you're going to get the shortest of your screws. That one goes there. And then every one of the other ones go there, 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 and there. And for these two spots, that's where your what's it called, wheelie bar hooks up, just like that. If you don't have the wheelie bar, then you're going to have two other screws there. And the screws for the transmission box have been put back in. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put the drive shafts back on, the pinion gear, and attach it back to the body. Alright, as you can see, I went ahead and put the transmission case back onto the chassis, of course. Now, I've got the rear end. I'm going to slide in each drive shaft. Should be fairly easy. Come on, you can do it. There we go, there's one. Now for the other side. There's two. Now I can go ahead and put on the rear A-arms. Just like that, and put these back in. Alright, with Daemon flipped back over, I can go ahead and put in those 4 screws that hold in the rear shock tower. All that's left is putting in the motor, putting the pinion gear onto the motor, and the wheelie bar, as well as the transmission box cover. And Daemon is finally back together with a new chassis and a new transmission box. Finally found a place for that Proline sticker, of course. Oh, finally. And that was Daemon's 39th upgrade. Next will be Daemon's 40th upgrade, which will be his last before he becomes Daemon.